Hello, everybody. So, the gruesome killings of 7 foreign aid workers seems to have woken up the collective conscience of even those people who, up until now, have been supporting the genocidal campaign of Israel. You've seen the U-turn that is being performed by labor leaders in this country and many leaders, around the world. But I have always said that the role of the media, the role of the TV presenters should not be underestimated, because they have also played key role in abating the genocide in Gaza. You would be surprised the kind of power that TV presenters or the media personalities wield, and yet they have chosen not to do so. In fact, on occasions, their actions have actually gone on to embolden these perpetrators of war crimes in Gaza. Now, let's take an example of Richard Madeley, who presents Good Morning Britain on ITV. Now, the murder of 7 foreign aid workers appears to have really shaken him. And now he is talking about the ban or potential ban on the supply of weapons to Israel as far as UK is concerned. It has taken the death of 7 foreign aid workers for people like Richard Madeley to realize that Israel is committing atrocities. He's actually saying that. He's saying this is execution. That's number one. He's saying this is not collateral damage. And I'll tell you why the word collateral damage is significant. So the 35,000 people, innocent, unarmed civilians, Palestinians, including 17,000 kids, toddlers, babies, they were collateral damages. But this 7 is not, according to Richard Madeley. Watch him.
This execution, which is what it was, effectively, this execution of 7 aid workers, feels like some sort of watershed this morning, doesn't it? Because this time yesterday, as the news was breaking, the general assumption was, before the details came through, that it was probably some sort of awful collateral damage, that these workers had been killed incidentally in some other kind of conflict. But now we know that it was extremely targeted. The first vehicle was hit in a small convoy. Some of the workers survived and managed to get out and get into another vehicle. That moved off. That was hit. Then there was one third vehicle that was still proceeding, and about a kilometre later, that was hit. So they were hit 3 separate times. And just look at this. I mean, this is bullseye aiming. Absolutely no accidental collateral damage here at all. This is an execution.
Now, his statement today is exactly the kind of statement that is being made from other quarters. The people who earlier supported Israeli's genocide are now demanding, some kind of answers from the same regime. Richard Madeley, let's come back to him. He's the same chap who very early in the Israeli genocidal campaign had drawn a parallel with the Second World War and the death of civilians that time. That's exactly the kind of argument the pro-Israeli or pro-Zionist, people used to make those days, and they're still making it even today. That when you tell them that far too many civilians have died, they're saying, well, this is war, this is ugly, that's exactly what happened during the Second World War when we were fighting Nazis, a lot of civilians also died and they were collateral damages, just to justify their genocidal campaign in Gaza. And Richard Madeley was one of them. This is what he had asked his guests in October,
when they invaded Europe in 1944 and defeated the Nazis by going into Germany. And in doing so, by going into Germany, quite apart from the bombing campaigns that the RAF and the American Air Force launched, a lot of civilians, German civilians, were killed. But nobody at the time made any excuses or apologies for that. They just saw it as a necessary evil. Is that a fair parallel?
Now you know the importance of collateral damage that I was talking about. We have all been aghast, shocked, appalled, outraged by what happened a few days ago when Israelis killed 7 foreign aid workers. 3 of them are British nationals, 1 of them is American. These 2 countries I'm mentioning because these 2 countries supply weapons or parts of weapons to Israel, which Israelis are using to kill their nationals. I mean the nationals of the supplying countries. And now he is shedding crocodile tears to sound, just how appalled he is. Well, we must never forget that. We must never forget what he has said or people like him has said. Because, as I say, the role of media is extremely important. Only if they had chosen to stand firm and chosen to stand on the side of humanity, far too many lives could have been saved. But they didn't. That wasn't the only occasion. On another occasion, there is an MP called Laila Moran, who is of Palestinian origin. She had appeared on ITV show presented by Richard Madeley. Now, Richard Madeley, she was expressing her own tragedy and the troubles being faced by her relatives in Gaza, in West Bank, and elsewhere. And the question that Richard Madeley asked was, you are close to your family members in Gaza. Did they know about the 7th of October attacks? Or did you know about that? That is a question. That is an intelligent question that this Richard Madeley, was asking an elected British MP.
My immediate family is in the West Bank. They're in Jerusalem, Ramallah, and Jericho. Thank goodness. So far, they are very scared about what comes next, and they're fine. But this pocket of the extended family, we are desperately, desperately worried about. It needs to stop.
With your family connections in Gaza, did you have any indication of what was going to happen 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago?
In essence, what you were saying, did your family know about these 7th of October attacks in advance? So therefore, were they hand in gloves with Hamas people? Now these people want you to believe now that they are concerned about what is happening. We appreciate all kind of support right now, and we appreciate all kind of condemnation for Israel. But we must also not forget that these were the same people who acted like cheerleaders when Israel had launched a genocidal campaign. We are not talking about the death of few people. They have flattened the entire Gaza, a region that was home to 2.2 million population. A majority of them have now been reduced to a place called Rafah, and they have nowhere to go. And they still don't know whether they will survive, because the evil regime of Israel is hell bent on sort of launching another massacre in Rafah. So we must not lose sight. And that's why I say the role of us media is very, very important. You remember the story of Radio Rwanda? In the beginning of this conflict, I used to tweet, and I always drew a parallel with Radio Rwanda. Because there were moments when, people on BBC and Sky News and 5 Live really left me shell-shocked. I could not believe that these were the same people who I used to work with. I know the Ofcom has become toothless. I've given 2 TEDx talks in India, and topics of both TEDx talks were media ethics. And I heavily cited the role of Ofcom and how efficient this organization was in its role as a watchdog. But perhaps that was 10 years ago. It has become extremely toothless organization. If it worked properly, a lot of those TV presenters should have been fined. Their organization should have been fined, and they should have been taken off air. So we appreciate, the change of heart for Richard Madeley and the other people, but we also haven't forgotten the stance they have taken in the past. Thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.